Klay Thompson, one of the best shooters of all time and a key piece in the Golden State Warriors dynasty, is known to have some of the most iconic shooting moments that shouldn't be possible. So here are 3 times that Klay Thompson shocked everyone and broke the game of basketball. 2016-2017, the Warriors were coming off a 3-1 choke and rebounded by signing Kevin Durant to make arguably the best team of all time, but the star of this game was of course Klay Thompson. Golden State was 17-3 heading into this game against the Paul George-led Indiana Pacers, who were 10-10 at the time, while Klay was not taking much of a hit from KD being added to the team as he entered the game averaging 20.7 points per game. This game would be completely different. Thompson would attack the rim and the perimeter early, with 10 points in the first 5 minutes, as he did most of his work off ball, which was a specialty for him throughout his entire career, but this game was very different. In the next minute, Klay would take 2 dribbles on both times he had the ball, which he scored both. One a midi pull-up and another a drive to the basket where he would just get past the defender, and he had 13 points very early, an encouraging sign for a player known to be able to light it up, as we will see that more later in the video, especially the third example we will talk about. Klay would continue to work off ball, pushing the pace in transition, as he was able to corral the ball from Curry passes before finishing with limited defensive pressure before ending the quarter with 17 points on 8 for 12 field goal shooting. A lot of shots for Klay, but the Warriors were already leading by 11, and the second quarter was even crazier. Virtually immediately after Klay re-entered the game in the second quarter, he would curl around a Durant screen at the free throw line and score with a finger roll at the rim, and a minute later would take a few dribbles and got enough separation on a 10-footer that there was no chance that wasn't going in with how hot Thompson already was. And at this point, the Warriors realized how hot Klay was and started to try to get him the ball. As off an offensive rebound, the ball would immediately go to Klay. Just 15 seconds later, Draymond would pass it to Klay on a fast break, and after taking a dribble for relocation, Thompson had sunk his second 3 of the quarter already, and this was his game now, as the next shot had the crowd going crazy. A fadeaway corner 3 would make the lead 20, but for the next 3 minutes, all that Klay would score is a pair of free throws. Maybe his heat check had finally ended, right? No shot. He would execute an awkward finish through contact and knock down a trio of free throws before a top-of-the-key catch-and-shoot 3 that was 40 in just the first half, and the Warriors would lead by 30. This was already just an absurd game for Klay Thompson, but we still have more to go. In the third quarter, Klay would attack even more from the catch-and-shoot, opening with a mid-range off an inbounds pass, then backdoor his cut before a smooth finish at the rim, with no defenders putting up actual protection because of his elite off-ball movement, and then a finish through contact from help at the rim, but after that was when this game had really opened up for Klay. With a lead of 31 already, Klay would catch a pass in the corner, and that's a career high. He wasn't done there, as Curry would get the ball and throw it to Klay for a crowd-wrecking 3, and that was just 3 points away from 60. Yes, Klay Thompson would finish with 60 points on just 11 dribbles in 29 minutes. 60 points, 11 dribbles, 29 minutes. That was the first 60 bomb for this franchise since 1974. And if you want to learn about the history of the 70-pointer, check out my last video, and after this one, it's in the description, and it's about the entire history of the 70-pointer. And this was also the first time in the shot clock era for a player to score 60 in less than 30 minutes played. By the end of the game, Klay would shoot 21 for 33 from the field, 8 for 14 from 3, and 10 for 11 from the line, despite not even playing in the fourth quarter, and the Warriors would destroy Indiana 142-106. While all 3 of these moments happened in the midst of the Golden State Warrior dynasty of the mid to late 2010s, this was by far the most crucial moment of the dynasty and even franchise. The Warriors went 73-9 in the regular season in 2015-2016, breaking the all-time regular season record. And in the postseason, it had only lost 2 games in the first 2 rounds, but it went down 3-1 against the Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook-led Oklahoma City Thunder. And even though the Warriors would chip away at the deficit with a Game 5 win, they would have to travel to a brutal Thunder crowd for Game 6 to starve off elimination, and what a game it would be. The first quarter would be a low-scoring battle, and Klay was not shooting good, as he was 3 for 10, but luckily Golden State was still in it, as the Thunder had generated just 23 points in that quarter, but would expand the lead to 5 at the end of the first half, despite Klay and Steph both scoring 9 in that second quarter. Throughout the first 24, Thompson had scored 16 points, definitely not a bad number, but trust me, it would get better. While Klay would only score 6 in the third quarter, it would be huge. 2 catch-and-shoot threes to start the half gave Golden State an early lead, and even though it wasn't the start of Thompson's heat check, it helped keep the Warriors in the game. But at the end of the third quarter, Golden State was trailing by 8 to OKC. With their season on the line, they would need a hero to starve off elimination, and that would be none other than Klay Thompson. He would sub in immediately at the start of the fourth quarter, knock down a wing three from a Draymond pass to get the lead to 5, and just a minute and a half later would get a corner three from a Draymond pass, this time having to get separation from an Andre Iguodala screen, and would have to be high arcing just to not get blocked. This was his 8th made three of the game, but he wasn't done just yet, as Bogut would get the ball from an offensive rebound, and heat check Klay was calling for before taking a fadeaway from multiple feet behind the line. You could hear the OKC crowd quiet down, as it is just Warriors fans cheering at this point, but OKC was still up 5 despite the trio of Klay threes, and the Thunder offense was forcing Golden State to continue to score just to stay in the game, and that is what Klay would continue to do, as the next stretch would shock absolutely everybody. Klay would get a lay-through contact to get the lead back down only 2 possessions, but KD would respond, and down 7, what would Klay do? From pretty much the logo, he doesn't even have his feet set, and the Warriors are down 3-2 on the road, losing by 7 with just 5 minutes left in the game. He somehow drills it, and that would change the entire game. In the next 2 minutes, Golden State would go on a 7-3 run to tie up the game. With just 3 minutes to go, and after Andre Iguodala traded buckets, and Russ lost the ball, he would find the hot hand. Klay would knock down 2 late free throws to help close the game, as the Warriors would complete the comeback with a 108-101 win, and would take Game 7 to complete the 3-1 comeback over the Thunder to keep the 73-win season alive, even though we all know what would happen after that in the finals. But in that Game 6 win, Klay would finish with 41 points and a NBA playoff record 11 made three-pointers. And in that fourth quarter, 19 points and shot 5 for 6 from the three-point line as the Warriors won the quarter 3-18. Now, before the last example of a time that Klay broke the NBA, I think it would be wrong if I didn't mention at least these 2 other times that Klay shocked the world. Klay would break the NBA record for three-pointers in a single game with 14 in a 25-point win over the Chicago Bulls, and he would finish with 52 points. While it is expected that one of the Splash Brothers of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson would break the record for three-pointers in a single game, 14 is still mind-blowing, and that record still holds today. Now, another time is less basketball related. Klay would tear his ACL on a drive to the basket in Game 6 of the 2019 Finals, and while working back to his return, he would tear his Achilles in a pickup game on November 19, 2020. But after another long rehab and 941 days between games, he would make his return on January 8, 2022. And not only that, he would somehow return after what is usually 2 career-ending injuries, but he would become a key part in the Warriors championship run in that same season as his return. Also, I must preface this by saying that not all of the footage will be from the exact shot, because I cannot show some of the footage in between shots, but every made shot will be in this video. Now, what's the stage? This is a midseason game where the Boogie-led Sacramento Kings, who were already on the way to the lottery, had lost 3 of their last 13, while the Golden State Warriors were an emerging young team led by Steph Curry and were a mind-blowing 34-6 heading into this matchup. Klay Thompson was one of the better young wings and a key two-way piece for the Golden State, and had shown some high-scoring abilities with 2 40-point games earlier this season. Of course, this was earlier in the Warriors dynasty. The Warriors would have a slightly disappointing first half, as Steph only scored 8 while Klay had 13 on 3 for 9 shooting, but a mid-offensive half, the Golden State only led 56-51 versus Sacramento, but in the third quarter, absolutely everything would change. Now, that wouldn't happen immediately, as the third quarter started with the Kings tying up the game from an early barrage of buckets from Darren Collison, DeMarcus Cousins, and Derek Williams, and Klay had only got 3 touches in the first 2 minutes, one of which was a non-shooting foul and another a turnover on a drive to the basket, but the scoring would start with 9:45 left in the quarter. Klay would get to a few feet in front of the elbow and got separation from his quick stop on Ben McLemore, and had time to face the basket and take a slight fadeaway, which of course was straight in. That would get the lead for Golden State, but Cousins would respond by getting to the line, and Klay surprisingly wouldn't touch the ball for another minute. But this would be where the scoring barrage would really start, as Klay would tip the ball away from a pass headed to the corner before pushing the pace to create a fast break, and with defenders Darren Collison and Derek Williams being pulled from the paint from Steph driving, Klay would stop for an open pull-up 3 at the top of the key. McLemore and Boogie would orchestrate 4 points to give Sacramento the lead again, but the Kings would miss on a 3, and Big Bounce would create yet another transition for 3 for Klay, which he would of course drain That is just 8 points in the first 5 minutes. Of course, a great stretch, but nowhere near to be on 37-point pace. The ball would head down the court 5 more times before finding Klay's hands again. In transition, him and Steph would instead attack the basket, and with Steph cold, when he got the ball, he would pass it right back. A huge slam by Klay gives the Warriors some momentum, and Klay 10 points through the first half of the third quarter. Cousins would hit another mid-range to reach 26. Golden State had realized Klay was starting to feel it, as Steph would give the ball to Klay at the wing, and after a handful of dribbles would shoot and knock down yet another pull-up three for his 26th. And after Cousins missed fadeaway, Klay would call for the ball after the rebounds, and after not getting the initial look, would get the ball back from Draymond, and what happened after would really start everything. Yes, Klay pointed at the spot he would shoot, then pulled up from way behind the three-point line, and the ball was straight in. Now, Warriors crowd had started to get loud as the next possession, there was some loud defense chants, and that Klay shot was a 6-made 3 and 29 for the game as Golden State had started to pull away. Before the next Warriors possession, they would change the defensive matchup on Klay as the man was just on fire, and with the second-year guard Ray McCallum on him, the result would be no different. The screen by Draymond would leave him open with just enough separation to get the ball off, despite being face guarded, and that leaves Kings announcers speechless, and after almost half a minute, would finally muster up the words to call him an artist. The Warriors were clearly trying to get Thompson the ball, at that point even turning the ball over in attempts, and in the next offensive possession, the gravity that he had generated gets Draymond open inside for the easy lay, and the Warriors' lead was into double digits. And after the timeout, there's around 3 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the quarter, and even though Klay had already had a really good first 9 or so minutes, this was when he went absolutely nuclear. The first possession for the Warriors out of the break would be an immediate pass to Klay where he would get a lucky bounce on a contested 3 to get his 22nd point of the quarter, and after another stop would drive to the basket and finish through contact with multiple guys defending the shot, and the Warriors crowd was rowdy, but it didn't stop there. Steph would get a steal, and once crossing half court got the ball to Klay, and this was the point where we all realized he just could not miss. How did he make that shot? I don't know. But Klay was just on another stratosphere, and whatever he shot was going to go into the basket as the crowd absolutely erupted. That gave him 40 for the game, and after a stop, the ball would go directly to him, and with the already deafening crowd, the help defense from Quincy Miller didn't matter. 29 in the quarter, career high 42 for Klay. Ball goes to Klay, repositions the feet. Sacramento would have to call timeout, and with that being called, Kings announcers were in absolute denial, and even said that they have never seen something like this before, which they haven't. The NBA hasn't, as there was quite literally nothing like this ever done before in NBA history. Klay would finish with 37 points in that quarter after knocking down 2 free throws, and would finish with 52 points and 11 threes on just 15 attempts. Those 11 threes were just one three-pointer off the record at the time, a record that he would eventually break as mentioned earlier in the video, but that was also the record for most amount of points in a single quarter, and even though Love had one of the best quarters ever just 1 year later, the record still holds as Kevin Love could not reach 37. Klay would shoot 13 for 13 from the field, 9 for 9 from 3, and 2 for 2 from the charity stripe. Klay would also score 18 points in a 2-minute and 58-second stretch near the end of the third quarter, and had every single one of those 37 points after the first 2 minutes, meaning it was all within less than 10 minutes. This truly was one of the greatest small stretches for a player shooting in NBA history, whether you're mentioning the 18 points in 3 minutes or the entire quarter, and that quarter was one of 3 times where Klay Thompson broke the game of basketball.